This is the Independent Dealer Podcast. Education by dealers for dealers. Now, here are your hosts, Luke Godwin and Jeff Watson.
Hello and welcome to the Independent Dealer Podcast, brought to you by Buckeye Dealership Consulting. Luke, before we get into our topic today, I want to make sure everyone knows about the rebooted newsletter that we got going on.
Yeah, it's great, Jeff. You've done a wonderful job.
Well, we both put together a lot of stuff, and what we've done is we've formalized it into what we call the 52-week guide to a better dealership. So it's called the Owner's Manual, which is basically for dealership owners. And what we've done is broken it down into 52 different areas that you can focus on in your dealership. So over the course of the next year, we're going to guide you through topics that range from, setting up your LLC and starting your business, your business plan, your, mission statement, all the way down to, succession plan and how you plan on exiting the business. So we really cover the whole 360 of your dealership, and we give you a topic to think about. We give you homework, that's a great word. Everyone loves that. Yep. Something to do in your dealership, an action plan. And we also give you the weekly meeting agenda, which has been really cool for me because I use it. I say, hey, this week we're talking about inventory buying, right? Let's all talk about the best cars for us to buy, what we don't buy. Let's revisit that. And then we have a quote of the day that we share with our team. So it's really, really helped me with my weekly meetings, but it gives me that forced to really focus in on these specific areas.
Yeah, that's a hard thing for owners to do. You're supposed to be doing something all the time, right? But sometimes you don't know what you need to be doing.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so I think it's very important to follow a guideline. And this is a good guideline that we put together for y'all to look at. And then while you look at that, go to our YouTube page, to the Independent Dealer Podcast YouTube page. And I think you can search on there this topic. And I'd be willing to bet you there's a video on there or something along this topic that you can watch in other podcasts of ours that are short of ours that will help you kind of dig a little deeper into what we're talking about.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great resource. Go into the YouTube channel to get some more education, to do a little bit of a deeper dive, because of course the newsletter, we try to keep it light. We try to keep it easy to get through. So go over to theindependentdealer.com, scroll down a little bit. You'll see the newsletter link. Go ahead, drop your email in there, subscribe so you can get this every single week. It does make me think we need to change one of the topics though, Luke, and maybe have more of a depth on cybersecurity.
Man, I tell you, big deal right now. And for folks out there that don't know what's going on, CDK, who is, I would think, probably the largest DMS provider for franchise stores in the world, is being held hostage by, I love how they say, Eastern European faction.
Yeah.
Which means Russians. Russians have taken over CDK. And at first glance, you go, oh, well, who cares? New car store, and they can't do deals. It goes a lot deeper than that, Jeff. You talk about wanting one program that does everything. Well, guess what? CDK is one program that does everything. And it's their DMS. It's their integration with CRM. It's their integration with Route One and with all the other captive finance companies. It's their RO writer.
Yeah. So the shop.
It's their labor producer.
And the parts ordering.
And their parts ordering and
from the OEM.
From the OEM and their OEM website integration. And the last most important thing, Jeff, that we've talked a lot about, people at NIADA talked a lot about last week. It's how they pay their employees, their payroll, their payroll taxes, and all. So
it connects to ADP or integration.
And right now, they can't even pay their employees, Jeff, properly. And they can't sell cars without handwriting things. You try to order a part from a new car store that's on CDK right now. It is a freaking nightmare. We are actually, this is no lie, Jeff. We are having to go to their parts counter.
Oh, wow.
Write a check. They are handwriting us a receipt.
Wow.
On one of their,
invoices.
They're handwriting us receipt and then we can take the part. They cannot deliver you parts right now.
Mm.
They can't necessarily tell you they have a part in stock. Somehow they're looking up
Oh my gosh.
the parts and they're walking back to the shelf and picking it up. So this is a nightmare. What would happen if this happened in your dealership? What
That's
if
a good
IDMS
point.
got held hostage?
And I think we should get into some of the lessons learned from this, and not, obviously the situation is not good, and supposedly the reports are this group wants $50 million unscramble the data, and no telling if any of that data has actually left CDK servers. So
That's scary.
you've
That's
got
scary.
customer data, names, info,
Social security numbers.
right? Think
Oh,
of everything you've given that you put in your DMS. That's all gone. So they want 50 million to unscramble it, and they say it's going up 10 million a day, which is wild, right? And who knows if it comes out accurate, if you're going to get it back, if they say it's going to definitely push through the end of the month before they even think of getting people back online.
and that's
Reports are they're going to pay the ransom, right?
you can pay the ransom, but like you said, who's to guarantee your data is going to come back properly?
Yeah.
And to back to the right store, right? A good friend of mine, a good friend of mine, who we bought our dealership property from, and been a friend of the family forever. They own about 12 to 17 stores. I texted him yesterday. I said, "Are you messed up in this?" And his response essentially was, "It was just one word, yes." I was like, "Oh man, I'm so sorry." And I mean, they're a big company and they sell probably, a couple thousand cars a month.
Yeah.
And they are just, I just
They're
hate it
just
for them.
they're crippled, right? So
Crippled.
and I want to talk about that, but I also want to talk about what's interesting is it's you talk about 15,000 dealerships in the US that are at a halt right now, right?
Yeah.
And they're all scrambling different ways to try to pick up the pieces and keep things going, like they talk about paper. What it's also doing is, everyone says CDK was pretty antiquated. It was like, they didn't really, I think maybe they had two-factor authentication, but they didn't have like required password changes every 30 days. And obviously a hack of this size, the first hack went through, which shut them down. It obviously it had to have been on some sort of a programmer or someone who has like core,
Yeah.
access
Yep.
to the database. And then they tried to restore it from a backup or from a second, and they got hit again the second time, and that's what really took them down. And I think someone tried to hack in through ADP, and so you've got all these kind of like piggybackers that are posing as CDK trying to get into these other systems. But what it does, unfortunately, is now you look at some of these guys and they're all jumping ship and switching over to other DMS and CRMs. Guess who owns the other DMS and CRMs? Cox Automotive. So now everyone's jumping over to Vince Solutions. And so it's almost like the monopoly that Cox Automotive has on that industry is just growing through something like this.
And you think about it, how many actual DMSs are out there? Let's talk about new car stores. You have
3
Reynolds and Reynolds, CDK, Vin Solution. I think, some of the smaller dealers, I was told, I asked a couple other people I know pretty well and what they're using. AutoSolve. There's 5 max. And if you're a big time dealership, it's CDK or Reynolds and Reynolds, right? And think about that from an independent perspective. There's 3 or 4, right? If you're lease here, pay here, oh my gosh, there's 1. This is, I don't know. I don't know where this leads to from security side, but every time something like this happens, it gets harder to log into your DMS. It gets harder. It gets harder for you to get a vendor that needs to get the API in. It gets even harder for that to have and cost more money. Just think about it. I mean, every time you need a new API, it's another $100 $150 a month, right, Jeff?
Yeah, definitely. What it makes me think is obviously the first thing, guys, and the lessons learned from this is going to be to vet the vendors that you do deal with, right? Are these vendors that are they so new to the space that they're kind of just like flying by night? Is it just some guy that built it in his backyard and hasn't even thought about any kind of security or data hack or breach? About 5 years ago, we had a local server here inside my office, and I used it to share, documents and photographs and videos amongst the networked computers. And we got, ransomware, and everything got locked down. And there was this little file that said, do this, 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 and this. And I was like, yeah, screw you guys. I'm not doing any of that. Like, I don't care. Take my Word documents. Yeah. We just, but you got to look at that and say, okay, are these vendors that I'm dealing with reputable? Do they take security serious? And you should ask them all those questions. So yes, when it gets inconvenient to do two-factor authentication, or when they make you change your password every 30 days, I get it. But those are the steps that you have to take to make sure that you don't become a victim, yourself. And of course, you hope that they're taking that internally. Now, I don't think someone can hack my, log into my DMS and have access to the entire back end of the DMS. No, they're not going to get it through my password, right? They're going to get it through one of their employees or their high programmer who actually has access to that.
And what's funny about that is, Jeff, and you and I both know people that have worked for certain DMS companies that 6 months after they no longer work there, maybe up to a year, still had high-level access. That makes you feel a little squeamish, right?
It does. It does. And then you say, okay, am I at a DMS where maybe they're an afterthought and the parent company might not care so much about them anymore? Are they, going to be a little lackadaisical when it comes to, data security, things like that?
Yeah, that's really scary. And you talk about, and I think, we've had Steve Levine on a couple of times and actually talked about some of this cyber hacking type situation. And I think he had a good point of how to vet your vendors properly. But you also need to make sure that your employees know what to click on and what not to click on, and what websites they can visit and what websites they can't visit. And so it starts to get your brain churning, like, man, what websites do I need to make sure a lockdown and they can't go to, which I don't know how to do. I'm sure it can be done out there, but and how to teach them, these are the only things you can click on. I've shared this with the community out there before, and talk about how we, during COVID, because everybody was home, somebody cloned one of our emails, sent it to the comptroller, and got the comptroller to change the bank information for an employee, and
oh my gosh,
and 2 paychecks were gone. So these things happen to everybody.
Yeah, they talk about that the phishing scams and the saying, hey, I need you to wire this money to this account, and it's like, okay, stop, think about it. Double check. Don't click on links. Don't go through hyperlinks that people send you. Oh man, you've got to be continually educating your employees.
I don't know if you saw this, but NIADA had somebody hack into their website or their email the other day, and I've got 2 separate emails asking me to click on this to do a bid proposal, and then after that, it wanted you to log into your Microsoft 360. So right then, oh, this is weird. Anyway, just make sure that you're clicking on the right things. But Jeff, what if this did happen to our DMS?
Yeah.
What are we supposed to do?
So this is the second lesson I learned. On top of vetting them, I would say making sure you have redundant systems, right? And like Luke said in the beginning, I've argued for so many years that, like, man, I wish I just had one solution that did everything. I wanted to do this and this and this and this, and I want it to be one price and all talk to each other. This makes me completely rethink that, right?
Yeah, I think so.
If you have a one system that handles everything like these guys have with CDK, right? And granted, this is maybe a once in a lifetime situation, and they might be down for 2 weeks and they'll recover and we won't ever talk about it again. But do you have redundant systems? If you went over and unplugged your internet right now, would your dealership still be able to function, right?
Yeah. And that's so everybody needs to know how to handwrite a deal. I know that's insane.
Do you even have those contracts?
So interesting you ask. 2 Fridays ago, and I don't know if it happened to you, but IDMS printing went down all day. Did you have that problem?
I wasn't in the office, but I heard.
So guess who didn't deliver any cars 2 Fridays ago when we had like 3 or 4 cars ready to deliver? This guy.
Yeah.
So did we get them back in on Monday? I think 3 of the 4. But think about that. We lost the deal because of this exact situation. So what do we do moving forward? I was talking to another 20 group member, and he's like, you know what? I think we need to make sure we build a spreadsheet and get it vetted to be able to calculate payments manually and have it to go in, to fill out the contract. So if we need to handwrite a contract to get a car delivered, we could do it, because I think that's super important. So we can handwrite everything else, but the contract is the only one that gets you a little scared, right?
Yeah, and there's some solutions, but what about I was like, I don't even own an impact printer. I don't know what I would print on, but to have the paper forms just sitting in a closet somewhere for the one day I might need them. I need a couple of retail installment contracts, some bill of sales, some odometer disclosures, like.
So real quick, everybody, stop what you're doing. Don't stop listening to the podcast. You might pause it for a second. But what I want you to do is go and save a PDF of every single document you have. Just save it and put it on your desktop as emergency forms. Okay. That way you can print those PDFs and you can handwrite, because if poop hits the fan, we got to have a way to get cars delivered. We did not. It cost us a deal. So, be prepared for the worst. Jeff, back up to what happens if your internet goes down. I've been there.
Yeah.
You know what? That's the reason we have cell phones. We can flip on a hotspot. Yeah. And we flip on hotspots. All our computers can hook to it wireless, and we can keep going. Our phones, we have a problem there, but oh well.
But you could go back to doing it by paper, right? So either you have a PDF that you can edit and then print it out, or you print it out and handwrite it.
That's right.
The other thing that some of us don't know is that some of our software providers actually have modules that run things that our other software providers don't have, right? So if my DMS went down, I actually have access to Dealer Center through my auto check. I could go into Dealer Center and start printing out forms and contracts and desking deals if I have access to it, or if I need to make a couple phone calls and have them flip it on for me. Those are some options as well, right? Some of these guys have, if my shop software got hacked, right, and I couldn't access my shop, my parts ordering, what's my backup for that? Do I have a direct parts ordering with AutoZone and Napa? Can I go through them directly instead of through the software that I'm using? Now, if my software underwriting, my CRM got shut down, do I have the ability to go in and see where my leads are coming from, right? So they're coming through my website or they're coming through Facebook. Guess what? Both those platforms keep a copy of that information before they send it on to my CRM. So I can log into my website. I can still see people who are filling out applications, and then I can reroute them if it's my CRM that went down. So having those redundant systems and actually knowing what they are, I think is a really, really good thing to have either written down or just try it sometime, right? See if you can access them.
That's it. I like the idea of writing this down, Jeff, and having, and it's probably 10 bullet points, right? If the internet fails, what do we do, right? If the power goes out, what do we do? If the DMS goes down, how do we take payments? We go back, we have extra receipt books. If we can't take payments, we walk into the back and we look in their file and we see what their payment's supposed to be, and we take the payment. Yeah. There's all kind of ways to get around when your software goes down, because Jeff, I'm a little older than you in this business, but I remember taking payments that way. I remember filling out finance contracts with a little flip book. It would tell you, okay, this is the interest rate you charge, and you flip through it and you came up with the payment and you fill out the finance contract. So I remember doing all these things. The people who work for you don't remember doing all these things unless you have some real old guys there.
Do you have a separate credit card processor? If one of your credit card processors got shut down, do you have any credit cards?
I don't. I would call my folks at Blytzpay and be like, y'all got to do something, please.
Yeah, that's actually a good point to mention the guys at Blytzpay. Obviously, it's who we use for our credit card processing. Great men and women over there that I do know take security very serious, right?
Yeah.
They take serious security over there. So they're great guys to reach out to for your credit card processing. I still have a physical terminal at my dealership that I use through a different processor, right? So
Yeah,
I have my finance company that takes my payments through Blytzpay, and then I have a terminal for my dealership as far as down payments and shop repairs. So because I have two checking accounts, I have two credit card processors, right? And so whether that's a Square or, just a terminal that you get from your bank, it doesn't really hurt to have those. You could use them, especially if you have two accounts. You should have two. But that gives you that redundant backup.
We have our service department. We've had to do it before. Now that you think about it, I forgot all about that. But if everything goes down, we take the payments on the service Clover deal and off we go. Yeah, you got to have it. You don't even think about those. You don't even think about the things you have until you're put in a position you got to use it.
Yeah, and you're looking around like, wait a minute.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah. Don't ask me how to run a credit card on that machine. I have no idea, but I know we have it. And Luke, when was the last time you backed up? When was the last time you took a hard backup of your data? Never. Have I ever? No, I haven't. Now, that also leads to the question of, do I have access to my data? So say inside my DMS or my CRM, I have thousands of people's name, information, phone number, right?
Yeah.
Both deals I'm working and deals I would like to work. And I've spent a lot of money to build up that database, right? Tons of money, right? And I should be working that database better than I am. I'm not. But if that just wiped away one day, got hacked, frozen, and I never saw it again, I mean, I'm in big trouble. Not to mention my buy here, pay here customers. Like, do I know what they owe me today? Do I know what they owe me on Friday? Could I rebuild that database if it got wiped out or frozen? No. Did I back anything up on Friday? Did I even save a hard copy of like maybe my AR balance that I printed out? I
wouldn't even know how to do that. Like, I mean, let's be real, right? Isn't this something that our providers should have? Like, shouldn't it be required that IDMS every 20 seconds makes a hard copy of everybody
and pulls it off the internet
and pulls it off of their
server,
their AWS servers, or sticks it in another AWS server where there's a firewall that nobody can get through?
I don't know. I bet they don't. They probably have some version of a backup. Like I think CDK had some sort of a cold or hard backup, whatever they call it. But for me, would it be that hard, Luke, to say once a month or once a week, I'm going to run a report of my total AR names?
Save it.
I can do that very easily. I can export it into Excel and I can put it on my computer. I can put it on a jump drive. I can take that jump drive and stick it in my safe. Right? And if I do that once a week, once a month, once a quarter, I would have a backup of both my current portfolio and customers. And I could also do that probably for my DMS or CRM if I really wanted to save everyone's information in some sort of a hard storage that's offline. Now, we can go down the road of what kind of liability does that give me if I'm pulling people's data off, putting it on my hard drive and storing it in my shoebox. That is not an answer for me to have, because I'm not so good at that. But it does beg the question, whose data is it? Is it my data? Can I get access to it when I want to? And am I responsible to keep it safe?
These are interesting questions. And the latest thing out is that CDK said they're not going to be able to get everybody up and running by the 30th, which is going to create massive problems for paying managers, salespeople.
Yeah.
There's gonna, anybody on the edge of working at a franchise store is going to be jumping off that edge on July 3rd.
Yeah. And that's, to wrap this up and put a pin in it, Luke, that really is one of the saddest things about this is the fallout, right? Yeah. Not only from the lawsuits that are going to happen between dealerships and CDK and providers and maybe even consumers that feel like their data was breached. But
There's
also,
would definitely be some of that.
yeah, the dealerships that may have been hanging by a thread because they're getting pounded by floor plans, interest rates. They're getting pounded by, not having inventory or slow sales or whatever it is. Some of the obviously these big groups, sure, they can float their employees. Maybe they're going to be generous and pay them regardless and then just reconcile later. But man, this can really take a hit. You got a bunch of mechanics sitting around that aren't doing anything. And then all of a sudden in a week or two, you're going to have them working twice as hard, making double overtime, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to have salesmen that are like, dude, this isn't worth it anymore. I have this flat paycheck. I got to get out of here. Wow,
Yeah.
what a mess.
It's going to be a mess. And protect your data is what we're preaching here, and have redundancy in how you do your business. Some of y'all listening may not even have a DMS or, a very rudimentary DMS. Just be aware. One bad email could come in and just screw you up. So
yeah,
yeah,
I would definitely say if you don't have one, go get one. No matter your size, there are solutions, all budgets, all size of dealerships. If you think you can keep track of this stuff on an Excel spreadsheet that you save to your own laptop, that's very dangerous. Don't do that. Yeah, go with at least the quote unquote professionals that this is kind of prove it or not so professional. Be interesting if the FBI gets involved with this and they get to the bottom of how this actually happened.
Yeah.
Now, I could.
You just wonder, things like this have to happen in Russia, right? Because if it had happened anywhere else, we'd probably be over there figuring out who did it.
Yeah, crazy stuff. Okay, guys, remember, thanks for listening. Subscribe to the newsletter. Get our 52-week guide to a better dealership. And reach out to us. Let us know what you think if you want any more information. But we will talk to you next week.
Thank you for listening. Please leave us a review. We'll catch you in the next episode.